Nights with Steve Price from the 50-Up Club. Christopher Zinn.
Christopher joins us every Thursday night. How are you?
I'm very well, Stephen.
I'm well, but I'm nervous. I'm very nervous because we've had a change of leader in Malcolm. Malcolm Turnbull's taken over from Tony Abbott, and Joe Hockey's gone, and we've now got Scott Morrison, who says he wants to be an at-home treasurer, and they're all talking about tax reform. And the moment they open their mouth about tax reform, the very next words they utter, normally, are superannuation and negative gearing. I would be worried if I was over 50.
I think so, because, of course, the former Prime Minister, made a great point of saying we're not going after super. We respect people's savings. We don't think super is government money. It's your money. So that's obviously something that's in ancient history now. So who knows? And it's uncertainty over retirement incomes, which is the one thing we know really unsettles older Australians more than anyone.
Well, because it keeps changing. I mean, get a policy, tell us what it is, bring it in and let it run. But don't keep... you can't invent, as Keating and co did, a superannuation scheme and keep changing it every 5 minutes, because what you're doing is you're, by law, forcing people to take a certain percentage of their income, which they want to grow that percentage anyway, and put it away out of reach for 30, 40, 50 years. Now, it's a great theory, but if you keep fiddling with the tax applications to it, it's not a great theory.
Well, exactly. The whole point of the tax concessions, or whatever you care to call them, is to encourage people to save, encourage to move them away from the pension and the public purse. But, given the uncertainty, given the change, one really got to wonder what people should do. And then, of course, the Treasurer is now saying that, in fact, those with houses should be able to sell them in ways that they can enjoy the benefits without affecting their pension eligibility. That's fine, but they just changed the pension eligibility in the last budget quite substantially in a way that affects about 300,000 Australians. So, again, it's interesting to know which way people will really react.
50-Up Club, the great thing about it is that you've got a group of people that you can poll quickly and relatively easily. You've done a survey recently on this very issue. I was surprised, and look, I'm talking a little out of self-interest, I suppose, but I was surprised that of those you polled, nearly half, or 45%, reckon that tax concessions for people with larger super balances should be wound back. I would query why anyone would say that.
I would suggest, and this was 18,000 people, mainly in New South Wales and Queensland, in terms of the footprint of your radio station who filled that in, so thanks a lot for doing it. I believe that's because a lot of the reporting around this actually suggests that all those with tax concessions are multimillionaires who are living the life of Riley at the expense of those who aren't. As I would suggest more to the case is that there are many people who have really deferred spending and pleasure now and saved for the future, as they believe the system, one, allows, two, encourages, or three, that's a decision that they've made. So I think it is an understanding of who has those concessions and who benefit. And while the top end, people at the very top certainly have been able to benefit from that, I'd suggest that there's a bigger spread than perhaps many people might realise.
And the amount of taxable income clawed back by government from that sector of the population is minuscule to the amount of money that they need to gather to cover the gap between income and outgoings in the budget. It's not the panacea, Chris. It's not what's going to save the budget and retire the debt. That's not where they're going to get it.
That isn't. But I suppose, and I hope it's not the case with the Liberals, but the idea that there are fat cats doing very well while other people aren't is a very easy message to sell. And of course, these are quite complicated issues around tax, incentives, policy. It's not always straightforward.
Also, you asked about GST of this 18,000. What did you find there?
Yeah, look, again, it was interesting with GST. There were 46% who didn't support any change. That's either to the rate or the base. Well, an equal 46% said they would support an increase to the rate or broadening the base. So it seems people are very divided about that. And again, given the tax summit we've had this week, GST is back on the boil. The change of government, goodness knows which way that will go. So again, it's, do you increase the rate, and 15% is being mentioned now, or do you widen it to medical, educational, fresh food, currently things that are exempt?
And did you ask the question about how older Australians believe that the government should try and fix the budget?
Look, one of the key answers people gave to that was stop paying themselves so many generous entitlements. That was, in terms of the comments, that came through really strongly. And I'm sure, it's perhaps like the super example you gave. You could put the MPs on buses at the back seat, but it wouldn't actually fix the hole that there is in the budget. Certainly we asked them which was, the most important to their financial situation to maintain, a slightly different question, and that was really exempting the family home from the pension assets test.
Well, let's hope that happens.
42%, thought that must stay as an exemption. And then those 16% who thought no changes to the tax on super.
So the fair go for 50-ups, that wraps up the end of the week. Members, I think, have got 24 hours to have their say and join the 18,000 that have already answered that survey. So jump on board, get on to 50upclub.com.au and get involved.
That would be great. Thanks so much. And we'll report back on the final findings in the next couple of weeks.
Great stuff. Thank you, Christopher.
Thank you, sir.